Sister Arpana, Sister Lucia, Deans of all the faculties, Namrata Chandrasekhar, Chairperson, Student Union, Leader of the Student Unions, students, friends from the media, and friends from the Congress Party, senior leaders from the Congress Party. Thank you for this welcome here. I'd like to start by saying a little bit about the research I did on this institution. So I started off, I said, look, I have to speak to these young ladies, and they're very energetic, and it's going to be a challenge for me because they're all very intelligent. So I said, let me do some research. So I went to Wikipedia. Like everyone does these days, I looked at the Wikipedia page, and I found to my surprise that 3 brilliant women that I know come from this institution. So first of all, I was very impressed by the list of alumni. Top bureaucrats, top businesswomen, huge list of actresses. So I picked up the phone and I called up Margaret Alva-ji, who worked with us, who works with Digvijay Singh ji. I called up Mrs. Rao, Ambassador to the United States, who I'd also had a little bit to do with. And I called up Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who, as you all know, is head of Biocon. And they were a little bit surprised because I picked up the phone, and normally, we politicians call them up and talk about politics, and I said, I've got a question for you. So they were like, yes. I said, I want to talk to you about your institution. And I want to understand what it was like being a part of this institution. So I'll tell you a little bit about what each one of them said. Mrs. Rao became one of the top diplomats in the country. She was involved at the highest level between the United States and India. And she said to me a brilliant thing. She said, one of my teachers at Mount Carmel had gone to the United States. And in those days, nobody used to go to the United States. And this teacher had gone to the United States, and she brought back ideas from the United States, and she was talking about them in Mount Carmel. And actually, one of the reasons I ended up as ambassador to the United States was that teacher who taught me in Mount Carmel, who gave me a new perspective, who showed me something completely new, a new way of looking at the world, a new way of thinking. So I said, ma'am, what did this institution give you? I mean, what is it if I talk to the ladies, the young ladies from that institution, what can I expect that all of them will have? And she said, well, the most important thing Mount Carmel gave me was persistence and focus, and the belief that I could do anything that I imagined, and I was no less than anybody else. So I said, thank you. She said, I'm going to send you a paper that I've written. I said, okay, and I put the phone down. Then I called up Margaret Alva, and I said, Alva-ji, what is your view? You went to this institution, so Margaret Alva-ji gave me a slightly different slant. She said the same thing. She said, the feeling I had once I left Mount Carmel was that Mount Carmel has protected me, has nurtured me, has given me knowledge, and now I have the tools to go out into the rest of the world and do whatever I want, and I'm confident that I can do it. She also told me that the teachers here were very strict. And in those days, I don't know if it still happens, but she said in those days, some of the girls used to jump over the wall and go out. I'm sure that doesn't happen anymore. And then I picked up the phone, I called Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who I've also dealt with in the past, I asked her the same question. And she replied the same thing in a slightly different way. She said, I could have never achieved what I achieved. I could have never become head of this institution called Biocon. I could never even imagined it if this institution hadn't nurtured me and given me the self-belief that that could be done. She also said that she came and spoke to you some time back, and she told you that times have changed and that during her day, not many women could do what she did. But today, many avenues have opened up for women, and she inspired you to follow your dream and try and get ahead in business, get ahead in politics, get ahead in the bureaucracy. After I spoke to these three ladies, I put down the phone and then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, is there something common in all these three ladies? They've all been to this institution. And what is it in these three conversations? What was the common thread? Did I see something that was similar, that was least common multiple, as they say in maths? I'm not very good at maths, but I know that term. And I realized that essentially what this institution does, it gives you knowledge, but it also teaches you tolerance. It doesn't impose a single idea on top of you. I walked in right now, and two young ladies over there from Tibet, they shook my hand. I asked them, where are you from? I'm from Tibet. Then there was a Christian prayer said here. And then there was a classical dance performance. Nobody said that we don't like that, or we don't like this, or this is any less than that. Everybody looked at it and appreciated the good parts of all these things. I'm sure the young Tibetan ladies here feel very much at home in an institution like this. Because this institution is about conversation. It is about coming here, even for me. I'm not coming here to tell you what I think. The young ladies inside Student Union leader said, you know, what is the idea for you coming here? I'm not coming here to tell you what I think. I'm actually coming here to listen to what you have to say, more than what I think. Both are important. But for me, it's much more important that I understand what the young people of this country are feeling, what they're thinking, what is concerning them. Now, I spent 10 years in politics, and one learns slowly in life. When I first came into politics, what I was convinced in my mind that the solutions to India's problems were simple. I was convinced that most other people didn't understand things, and that I understood them. This was 15 years ago, that I understood them, and the only thing that had to be done was to implement what was correct. And slowly, 10, 15 years later, I've come to the conclusion that if you want to achieve anything in life, forget politics, anything in life, you have to listen to people around you. You have to appreciate people around you. You have to work with people around you. So the first thing I want to tell you is that no matter how smart you are, how intelligent you are, you live in a society, and you're only going to be successful if you listen to those people around you, work with the people around you, appreciate the people around you, and carry the people around you. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the work that I've done with women. And this, for me, has been the biggest learning experience in my life. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. Some years back, about 10 years back, we started a self-help group system movement in my constituency. Do you know what a self-help group is? For the young ladies who have not heard about this, it's basically the idea of connecting women to banks and finance. Allowing women to use finance to become entrepreneurs, to do small businesses, and to pull themselves out of poverty. And so we started this. I went to Andhra Pradesh, I saw it there, and I was very impressed by it. So we started it in Amethi. When we first started, you know how UP is. Everybody in UP told us that this can work in Andhra, it can't work in Uttar Pradesh. But we started small. We started with 50 women. And today, it's the biggest SHG NGO, non-government NGO in the country. There are 1.5 million women who form part of this NGO. And like I'm talking to you, I spend a lot of time talking to them. I learn from them. And these are, in a way, they're unique women because almost all of them used to be poor. A lot of you come from successful backgrounds. A lot of you come from backgrounds where your parents are successful, they've achieved a lot. Most of these women came from backgrounds where they had no money. They were below the poverty line. And I want to tell you about one of the conversations I had with a group of these women, which stuck in my mind and I will not forget till I die. This young lady, there was about 15 of us talking, and this young lady from the group, she said, you know, it's sort of in these groups they'll talk about their personal experiences, they'll talk about what's going on at home, they'll talk about how they're being treated, how they're feeling. So the lady stood up and said, you know, I want to say something. So the others were listening, I was listening, and she said, you know, I used to be poor, and I had forgotten as a poor person that I existed. I had become so small that I had forgotten that I existed. If somebody used to come to my house and say, is anyone home? Instead of answering my name, I would keep quiet. And she said, slowly this SHG movement empowered me, and it brought me, it showed me that actually I could do a lot in my life. And I slowly started to come out of poverty. And she says, one day, while this process was going on, my husband used to drink alcohol. And he would come home from work. He was a laborer. He would come home from work and he was frustrated. And then he would beat me. And this used to happen every single day. One day he got really angry, and I had a 1.5-year-old child. And he picked up the 1.5-year-old child and he tossed the 1.5-year-old child on the ground like that. And I just couldn't believe it that my husband had picked up my own child and smashed it on the ground. And then when I picked up the child, it was screaming, and I realized that the child's arm was broken. So as a mother, I just looked at the father and I said to him that, you know, you can beat me, but what are you doing? What are you doing to this son? And I took him to the hospital, and he got a plaster, and he was howling, but we got the plaster, and he was okay after a couple months. And then I asked her a question. No, sorry. Then she said, now, in Hindi she said, ab to ye kabhi nahi ho sakta. Mera pati ab mere, do you understand Hindi? Mera pati ab mere upar haath kabhi nahi utha sakta. So I was very happy about this. I was like, that's a huge achievement. आपका पति शराब पीता है, नहीं शराब नहीं पीता. आपको मारता है, नहीं मारता है. So then I said to her, I said, tell me something. You know, when your husband broke your child's arm, violence was carried out in that room. Somebody carried out violence. Can you identify for me who all carried out the violence? I just asked that question. And she looked at me and she said, my husband carried out the violence. And then she said, but it was not only my husband. So I said, well, who else? She said, it was my parents. My parents who knew that my husband was beating me, but didn't give me the power to stop it. So I said, who else? She said, it was all the people who lived next to me. They all knew that they didn't help me. And I said, who else? And then she said, went quiet. And then she said, the most brilliant thing that I have heard. She said, Rahul, I was also involved in that. It was not only society. It was not only my husband, but it was me. And I looked at her and I said, how can you say something like that? How can you tell me that the fact that your husband has broken your son's arm is your fault? And she said to me, because I had the power to stop him and I didn't. And today I realize that nobody can do anything to me because I am strong enough to stop anybody from doing anything to me. And this for me was a very powerful lesson. I believe that, and this is probably because I've got my grandmother who I learned a lot from, I have my mother who I learned a lot from, my sister who I love very much and I learn a lot from. Maybe my father died when I was young, so I've been close to women. For me, the single biggest problem in this country is that women do not have the place that they deserve. Women are mistreated. Women are made to feel uncomfortable. Women are categorized. So here, even looking at you, society decides that someone is pretty. Society decides that someone is thin. Society decides that someone is smart. And these are all just things society invents. For me, all of you are beautiful. Every single one of you has a place in this country. And every single one of you has to be respected and given that place. And that is what I sit here fighting for. It disturbs me, for example, when a young lady goes to a pub in Bangalore and is thrashed by someone because she went to a pub. Whether she goes to a pub or she doesn't go to a pub, that is her decision, that is her problem. I give her that much intelligence that she knows what is good for her. But carrying out physical violence of on a woman because you don't appreciate what she does, in this country that is not acceptable, and that is something that I will contest and I will fight for. So, what is the difference between the RSS, the BJP, and us? There are numerous differences, but there is one central difference. From our perspective, we want to give space to every single person in this room. Even if we do not agree with the idea of that person, we want to give them the space to talk. And we want to be able to listen to them and say, okay, we don't agree with you. But as an Indian, as a member of this college, you have equal right to put your view across. We don't come to you saying, we have all the answers. In fact, you'll ask me many questions. And I will give you a perspective, I will give you a view. I will not be able to give you the answer. Because there are many, many different views on anything. Just now we were with the young lady